Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. This is your host, Emmett Muckles. Now, you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher. You can find us on emmettmuckles.com. That's EMMI-T Muckles, MUCKLES.com. Today, I have Felice Cohen with me. I've been I hate to say it, internet stalking her a little bit because she is that person who is after a lifestyle that just start coming to me as my whole chakra and being started to change in life, which means less is more. She is the perfect candidate. And she actually reached out to me. Once she did that, it was on. So I'd like to welcome Felice to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me, Emmett.
Thank you. You know, we had some little mix-ups with time and stuff like that, but see, in my universe, things work out. They always work out for the best. And you have a very, how do I want to say this? A very special place in the Billionaire Lifestyle's heart, because you have found the key to maximizing life for what you have and a lot of mine goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How did you come across this tiny place in Manhattan where the square footage can be $1,200 and up per square foot?
Well, I was looking for a place in Manhattan. I wanted to try living for a year. I wanted to quit my job for a year and finish writing my first book about my grandfather. And I really wasn't having much luck. I was looking on the Upper East Side. Everything was very expensive. And then a friend I hadn't talked to just called out of the blue, and we were chatting. And she said she had a friend of a friend was looking to sublet her place on the Upper West Side. She said, but I got to warn you, it's small. And I thought, how small could it be? And I went and checked it out, and the price was right. And I thought, it's just for a year. And then I moved in.
And you know, most people, I've seen the video, and ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see exactly what she's referring to, if you just Google Felice Cohen, it's going to come up and it's going to show you her living space and how efficient it is. Was there a period where you had to make an adjustment psychologically, physically, spiritually?
All three. I had less than a month to get ready to move in. I put 77 boxes of stuff into storage, and I'd been working for almost 20 years as a professional organizer. So, you know, in New York City, I'd been organizing people, and I know that when you organize, you have to go up. So I was preparing for what I could bring and what I needed, and I quit my job. So I didn't need all my dressy clothes, and I didn't need all my stuff. There was no kitchen. So I really had a toaster oven and a hot pot. I had to go get another one. But the first night, I had a panic attack. I was sleeping in the loft bed, and, you know, there were only 23 inches between the top of the mattress and the ceiling. You couldn't sit up in bed. You could kind of lean up on my elbow, as you could see in the video. I had a friend stay over, and I was so exhausted from moving and the stairs all day and unpacking that I fell right asleep. But I woke up in the middle of the night just drenched in sweat, and I was like, I have to get out of here. And I get down the ladder. I don't know how I didn't fall, and I'm screaming, how am I going to get out of this? And I started pacing, which in that small space was like walking in a circle. And I finally calmed down, and I was like, what am I going to do? My friend said, Felice. And after that, I realized I was living in paradise compared to what he went through.
Yeah.
And I never had a panic attack.
So out of this adventure came your 90 lessons for living large in 90 square feet. How did that come about where you said, I can turn this into something, some information for people? Was that because of what you do, what you've done for the last 20 years, and you said, this is the perfect opportunity? Or how did that come about?
Well, I've been toying with the idea of writing a book about organizing. And after the video went viral, I got hundreds and hundreds of emails from people around the world. You motivate me to downsize, you make me feel like it's okay to live with less. And I've been motivating people for years. And there are so many books on organizing. My book is not a how-to as much as it is a want-to guide, because it wants to motivate you to do what you do out of life, because what takes up so much of our time is our stuff. We have to spend time cleaning stuff, moving stuff, working to pay for stuff. And so by eliminating that clutter, you have more time to do what you want to do. So these lessons are really kind of easy, motivating lessons.
There is one little thing that I want to ask you about in reference to your place. You said shrinky dinks.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't know what shrinky dinks are, but you've made them into an art, correct?
Yeah. It's one of, it was the only, yeah.
So are you still into the shrinky dinks and making art with shrinky dinks?
I still make them when I have the time to do it. I love it. I mean, it was perfect because it was the only art that would fit in that tiny space. But yeah, they were big in the 70s. And it's like that plastic that you draw and color and you put in the toaster and they shrink up. And it was a lot of fun. I've sold a lot from being on the video.
So outside of this experience, what is Felice about now? Because you're coming out with a new book about your granddad, correct?
Well, that already came out. That was the first book.
Okay, that was the first book. And then the 90 Lessons for Living came out after that, correct?
Right.
But I was looking at your websites. You've published quite a few things here, and I love your website. One of the things I want to know about is your traveling.
Yeah, so I've been traveling. I'm now on a little hiatus, but it will start up again soon. I've been to a number of tiny house festivals because this is now the biggest thing, no pun intended. But it's people are realizing that they want experiences over stuff. And the feedback I'm getting and the talking to people is really wonderful. I was my tiny place kind of was on the cusp of this. And I love speaking at these things. And I'm in a tiny house, a virtual summit in January, speaking about how to prepare to live small, because there is the mental preparation as well as the physical preparation of getting rid of stuff.
Yes, there is. I've experienced it myself, and I've gotten down to a nice little area because I was married, and you accumulate a lot of things over the course of that relationship. And then when that relationship's in, somebody's stuck with stuff. It was amazing. I was able to sell cans of spray paint. I just had a house sale, and it was a moving experience. But once you come out of that and you get to the place where you're comfortable at minimalism, which is really about, how do you maintain it so that you don't go back the opposite way? Because it's so easy in our culture.
Yeah, I think that's where the mental preparation comes in, because you want to find out what your priority is. What do you want to do? Do you want to travel? Well, you want to put your money towards traveling and not so much tchotchkes, little things that accumulate. And, some of my lessons are like, if one comes in, one goes out. We just had holidays. I was with my niece and nephew last night. They all got all the stuff. I said, count how many things you got. And then I said, let's go to the toy room and let's give away so many things to kids who don't have as much. And they were motivated by their new things to do that. And I think, it's not a one and done. It's a consistent, you got to stay on top of yourself because we change too.
Yeah. And what I found out is that it's really difficult for people to understand this until you spiritually get to that place. And it is a spiritual movement. It's for us, it's a digressive movement because you're going back to a time when people talk about the old days. This is it. This is minimal because if you go to those old houses, the closets were not very big. I grew up in Detroit, and the old houses had tiny closets. What are you finding out the reaction to people who are not versed in, the smallness, the tininess, the minimalism, and they're getting introduced to it? What's the reaction of people who are, into things?
I see this a lot at these tiny house festivals. I was just in Florida. They had over 50,000 people who come. And some people are curious to see these tiny homes because they've got like 75 and they explore and they watch them on TV. And some people really want to do it. And I think, we're overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed with our stuff. And getting started, it's like going on a diet.
Once you got to this, are you still in the same space that you were, or have you branched out a little bit or branched upward in size a little bit?
I was evicted from that tiny space because after
I'm not
the landlord, everybody laughs. You know what? When I speak in New York City, everyone's like, yeah, it's part of being a New Yorker. And you know what? After being on Good Morning America, the landlord was like, you're not the girl on the lease. But like you said at the beginning, everything works out for a reason. And I ended up buying a place 2 blocks away.
That's funny. A lot of people in America don't understand. They think eviction is just like this terrible thing in life. I come from the inner city. It's just a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
And it worked out for the best.
yeah,
So,
it just is. So, and that's the thing about life. Life will, it's basically said you were done with that moment. You were done with that experience, and it helped you to move on. So now that,
absolutely.
so your place that you've purchased now, is it, how much more big, how much bigger is it than the previous place?
Not many people can say this. It's 5 times bigger. It's just under 500 square feet.
That's
It's a one
still
bedroom.
tiny.
Yeah, but I made a mental promise to myself that I'm not going to live with a ton of stuff again. And I love my new space. It has a kitchen, and it's perfect size for me.
So the average tiny house is about 280 square feet. Am I correct? But it's less than 500 on, that's a big tiny house, 500 square feet, correct?
Yeah, that's about right. I
And
think
and with that, the movement is uniquely an American movement. Have you seen it start to spread out? Because I had it mentioned on a podcast from a woman in the UK how she loved the tiny house movement, particularly because it comes from Americans, and we're about bigger, better, faster things all over.
Yeah, this summer I spoke at a tiny house festival in Canada, in Quebec, and they're really getting into it. They're setting up plots of land and putting about 5 tiny houses where they'll share kind of a grid, and it's great. I mean, people all over, people in China and Japan are already kind of living smaller spaces, and I think it's making us reevaluate the American dream. Because the American dream was buy a big house and fill it with stuff, but we're realizing that's not going to make you happy, and that dream can turn into a nightmare real quick. Suddenly, you can't afford the mortgage, and it's not always for everyone.
Yeah, I think 2008 was a awakening for the population, particularly in regards to real estate. And what do you find as far as, do you have any interactions with jurisdictions and how they accept small living spaces, small independent living spaces versus, these large tracts of land?
I personally haven't really had any talk with any of those people, but those talks and that discussion is a huge topic right now going around, especially at these tiny house festivals. I was in one in Colorado, even in Colorado and Quebec, and one in Massachusetts and in Florida, because a lot of jurisdictions don't want these tiny houses. I think they're afraid they're going to become these these trailer parks or something. And I think they're worried about the water and the electricity and the grids and all these different other things. But some of these tiny homes are, self-sustaining. So yeah. I think it's a beginning of a huge conversation.
But I am deeply ingrained in the renewable energies on the solar side. Many of the tiny houses and tiny spaces that I see are very self-sufficient and almost, if not all, off-grid. Mm-hmm. With these jurisdictions, what it's doing, I think, is beginning to affect the revenue streams for local municipalities. With the tiny house movements that you're seeing, I like how we've moved from your apartment living to tiny houses. With the tiny houses that you've seen, have you seen a boom in companies that are representing and building these tiny houses?
I have. I mean, I'm traveling to all these different ones, and you really meet these incredible people who really are doing unique things. And this, some of them, have kind of a similar theme going on, and they have the loft bed up ahead, and there's a good kitchen and a bathroom. But there are a lot of these built-ins, and really create a lot of creativity going on. Where a table pulls out of the wall, and this turns into a bed, turns into a couch, and there's really a lot of creativity and a lot more companies coming forward with great ideas. It's only going to, I think, grow.
And so what do you have for 2017? What's your big push for 2017 in the life of Felice Cohen?
Well, I'm starting to do some workshops that I'm putting together for people, whether you want to live small or just live with less, to really kind of get people motivated. And I'm teaming with some other authors and speakers, kind of the whole pact about your feelings, whether emotional, getting on the bandwagon, and starting with your stuff and your body and your mind.
And where do you guys plan to tour? Where do you plan to make stops? Are you coming to the Midwest?
I'd love to. We're going to start probably in New York. I mean, January is a kickoff for this one workshop. We're going to just see where it goes. And we're just starting now to kind of put it together. So it'll be up on my website, but we don't have it all laid out.
No, I'm going to ask you for something very personal. So
okay.
if you come to Chicago, because you know my text number now, you text me and say, Emmett, I'm coming, and I will be there.
Awesome. I will text you for sure.
I will be there. I will tweet it out to all my Indiana and Illinois people and my Michigan people to make sure that, you can have the best representation, because this is a really great thing for the population of America, because you actually take what you need. And it's a different ideology and it's all about the billionaire lifestyle. And I hate to ramble, because this is really about you, because you're imparting some really great information. Are you coming to St. Louis, Missouri in later October, or did that pass in 2016?
Yeah, that passed. I was just there.
Okay. Gotcha. But you will be in Centerville, Mass. Or is that 2016 or 2017?
I think they're all for 16. Coming up, I have, I'll be in Rhode Island. I have another tiny house festival in Georgia. And now I'm just starting to kind of fill in all the places I'll be in the next 6 months.
And how did you get on this circuit? How did you position yourself to be that authority? Because there's not a lot of people that you hear, or I don't, because I'm a novice, as a go-to for minimal living, tiny house. There's a lot of people, but outside of those two guys who wrote The Minimalist, how did you position yourself in that particular market?
Well, when my book came out in the spring, I started looking at a lot of tiny house things going on, events or jamborees, and I just reached out to people. And my take is how to prepare to live with less, how to get more from less. And because I lived in 90 square feet, which is smaller than a lot of these tiny homes, I really know what I'm talking about, because I've lived it and I loved it. And I planned to stay for 1 year. I stayed for 5, and it changed my life. I grew up in a huge house. I thought I'd always live in a huge house, but that changed.
I know it does change your perspective once you realize you feel like Atlas, except you have a garbage truck on your back.
Storage unit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that 77 boxes of stuff I had put into storage. Every year I agreed to stay another year. I went back to storage and went through my stuff. And after 5 years, I got rid of all 77 boxes.
Have you got to that moment where you're like, I threw that out, or I gave that away?
No, never. That's one of the lessons in my book. It's like, those just in case items you save stuff for, but you rarely need that stuff.
What about your Wham! Make It Big album? Did you get rid of it? I'm saying that for George Michael, who just passed away.
I know. That's so sad. Careless Whisper is like one of my favorite songs. Yeah. I was a child of the 80s, so it's just so sad.
I know. Rest in peace, George Michael. Well, how can people reach you? Give me everything. Give me your Gmail. Give me your Twitter. Give me your Google. Give me your Facebook. Give me all the stuff, so that people can reach out to you, because I know there's a growing influx of people who are looking to rid themselves of all this stuff. And sometimes it's just finding the inertia to start, or getting that momentum. And they may need a mentor such as yourself, or just someone to steer them in the path.
I'm constantly getting emails from people asking for advice, and I'm so happy to give advice. If you just go to my website, Felice Cohen, FeliceCohen.com, it has all my links to Twitter and Facebook and everything, and Instagram. And I started a YouTube channel making like before and after fun videos. I'm still learning that, but it's a lot of fun. And you can always email me, Felice@FeliceCohen.com. My books are on Amazon. And really, the 90 Lessons for Living Large, this is the perfect time. January is Get Organized month.
Yeah.
So it gives you easy lessons.
And your blog is tied to, you can get to your blog through your website, but your blog is an external blog as well, correct?
Right. It's Living Large in Any Size Space. Yeah.
So,
FeliceCohen.wordpress.
there you go. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
So that if you guys want to stay updated and find out some things, please go to her website and visit her. Do you have any functional groups on Facebook or anything related to your cause for people to peruse, be a member of, anything of that nature?
I'm not really sure. We have a lot of the tiny house festivals where I'll be going at. Those are on Facebook. We'll be starting one as soon as we get the everything finalized for the tour of these workshops. That'll be on Facebook.
Well, awesome. This has been a great interview. I have one last question.
Okay.
What was it like having someone over for a sleepover with a really tiny house?
Everybody wants. That was like the number one comment on the video. I had a boyfriend while I was there, and it was no problem at all being up there, sleeping up there, being intimate up there. My niece once visited. She was 4. She was the only one who could sit up. My mom once stayed over, and she's the only one who hit her head. But it really was fine. And even getting ready in the morning, my boyfriend and I had our little dance, and he stayed over a couple nights a week. But it was really fine. It just, it worked out.
Well,
luckily, I don't think I could do it again, honestly, but for what it was great.
It was an experience.
It was.
Well, here's how I end the show typically. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are billionaires already, and I'm going to prove it to you. So when you get up in the morning, or you may be getting up at night, you may work midnights, take your shower, get out, wipe the steam off the mirror, and I want you to stare intently at the person looking back at you. That person is a 1 in a billion miracle that survived and made it to this earth. You may think, hey, no one likes me, no one looks at me, or I'm average, or I'm mediocre. That's not true. Those cracks that are developing around your eyes, that mole, all those little things in your face say that you are special. And it says that you are loved by someone. You never know who's admiring you from afar. Love yourself. So when you love yourself, you're going to open your heart, and then you will find all this love that influxes into your life. Remember, love yourself deeply, and love others as equally as you love yourself. This has been the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Thanks, Felice.
Thank you, Emmett.
And we're out.